already had glimpses of the Nod Krai characters, and with some of them releasing in the next patch, it's clear they're going to shake up the meta just like every new region always does. But here's the thing, some older characters still maintain their value no matter what and continue to be the best at their job. That makes them must-pull rerun units even in this upcoming Nod Krai era. Today, we're ranking the most valuable rerun units in the upcoming patches to help you decide who's worth pulling and who you can skip. Before that, if you're planning a top-up, you can save up to 25% using Loot Bar. Just click the top link in the description, choose your server, enter your UID, and the Genesis crystals are sent straight to your account, usually in under a minute. They've got hundreds of thousands of 5-star reviews and are heavily trusted. This is the cheapest way to pull for Chasca, Mualani, or any upcoming banner. Plus, if you sign up today, you'll also get an extra 10% coupon on your first purchase. And don't forget, we're running a giveaway. To join, just comment your opinion down below and join the Discord server for more details. Now let's get into how we're ranking these rerun units. Supports will generally hold more value than DPS characters because they are far more flexible and can fit into multiple team comps. They're the ones who actually make or break your strongest lineups. Then we'll also consider how important they are in current and future teams, how F2P friendly they are to build, and of course how future-proof they'll remain in the evolving Nod Krai meta. In version 6.0 alone, we'll be seeing more than 10 rerun characters, and this includes some big names like Nahida, Yelan, and the full Sumeru Chronicle banner. So let's start with the Dendro Archon herself. Nahida has been one of the most dominant characters in the game for years, completely defining Dendro reactions. Until now, she's had no competition for her role, making her the undisputed best Dendro support and on-field DPS hybrid. But with Lauma arriving in version 6.0, the story changes. Lauma is already looking like a better choice for Bloom, Hyper Bloom, and Burgeon, and that immediately reduces Nahida's monopoly. On the other side, Aggravate and Spread teams still heavily need Nahida, though leaks suggest Ineffa might soon take over that role too. So, is Nahida still worth pulling right now? Honestly, the answer is no if you're looking purely at long-term future-proofing. She completely ruled Dendro for 3 years, but this is the first time she's really being power-crept. That said, she's still an amazing option, easily the second best Dendro support behind Lauma and Ineffa. She can still work alongside them, but it's more like they don't need Nahida as much as Nahida needs them. For now, we'll drop her from S tier down to A tier. Now let's talk about Yelan, a character who has only gotten stronger with time. She aged like fine wine. Dendro reactions gave her a massive boost, and later she slotted perfectly into teams with Arlecchino, Skirk, and Flins. She can even be paired with Mavuika. The only real replacement she has is Xingqiu, who is basically a 4-star Yelan, but Yelan is still far stronger in every aspect. Her value skyrocketed even further after the Nod Krai Moan Soul mechanism was revealed, because the new reaction doesn't benefit from damage bonus, completely throwing Furina out of the picture. That makes Yelan even more important as the best Hydro applicator and sub DPS, followed by Xingqiu and Aino. Right now, she's absolutely still S tier. The only potential threat to her dominance will be Columbina once her kit is revealed, but until then, Yelan remains unmatched. Moving on to the Sumeru Chronicle rerun banner, we won't waste time considering characters like Dehya, Tighnari, or Sino here. They're simply not good pulls for meta value unless you like them personally. Wanderer is still the strongest Anemo damage dealer, but he's nowhere close to the current DPS lineups. The real focus should be on Alhatham and Nilou. Starting with Alhatham, he's always been in a tricky spot. As the only proper Dendro on-field DPS, he's been constantly overshadowed by how good Nahida is. And since Nahida herself is dropping in value, Alhatham is also taking a hit. With Ineffa rumored to be another Dendro DPS, his role is becoming even less secure. For now, we're putting him in B tier. Nilou, on the other hand, has seen a big rise in value. Early on, she was seen as niche, but with Lauma and the new support set, her Bloom teams have actually become far stronger. She still isn't as recommended as Neuvillette Bloom with Lauma, which is better for raw damage, but Nilou finally has a proper team where she shines, alongside Lauma and Aino. Thanks to this buff, we can place her slightly higher than Alhatham in B tier, though still not at the level of true top-tier reruns.
Coming to the Fountain reruns, we do have some big units who shaped the meta and still remain top tier. Starting with the Hydro Archon, Furina. She is without a doubt the Hydro support. Even though she falls short on raw damage and Hydro application compared to others, her insane buffs make up for it. Unlike Yelan or Xingqiu, who are restricted to normal attack teams, Furina has no such limitations. She's the best option for Neuvillette, Mavuika vape teams, Skirk, and even Varesa. But here's the catch. Her buffs are based on damage bonus scaling, and Nod Krai units, along with lunar reactions, don't scale from damage bonus the same way. They scale more from ATK and elemental mastery buffs, which means Furina isn't the character you'd want if you're mainly planning to go for Nod Krai units. This makes her fall short compared to Yelan in the new era. That said, Furina and Yelan do share some overlapping teams, while also having their own unique ones. Furina is the only option for Neuvillette and Varesa since they don't work with Yelan. Considering this, plus Furina's own respectable personal damage, she's still broken in her specific teams. But the reality is, as newer DPS arrive and bring their own specialized supports, Furina's value will gradually fall. For now, we'll still keep her at S tier, but she's starting to decline. Now, moving to DPS. Neuvillette is the strongest DPS ever since his release, and that hasn't changed. He remains unmatched in AoE, in team synergy, and he even got huge buffs from new units like Escoffier, Xilonen, and even Citlali in free setups. He also has the most meta teams out of any DPS. Hypercarry Neuvillette, freeze with Escoffier or Citlali, vape with Mavuika, and soon he'll even work great with Llama Bloom. He's still, without a doubt, an S-tier unit. Next is Arlecchino. She has been power crafted by Mavuika, but still remains strong. The problem is none of her teams are currently in the top 5. Her best comps are still tied to Melt, which makes her heavily reliant on supports like Xilonen and Citlali to shine. Overload Arlecchino is also decent, but it doesn't come close to teams like Varesa or even Mavuika Overload. She might get buffed with Ino or the new EM-based set, but those buffs will also power up units like Mavuika. For now, she's sitting comfortably in A tier. Talking about Overload, we also have Clorinde. She was the top DPS right after her release, but she's been slowly falling as new DPS keep arriving, and she hasn't received meaningful support that can push her higher. Her strongest teams are basically the same ones she had at launch, which shows how Hoyoverse hasn't really supported her. She still works well with Chevreuse and Overload, and her value did rise with Ineffa, but the issue is Ineffa doesn't need Clorinde as much as Clorinde needs her. For now, she'll sit at the top of A tier. For sub-DPS units, we have Chiori and Emily. Both are excellent in their specific comps and shine in those roles, but because of how restricted their teams are and their limited overall damage contribution, they do fall short compared to more flexible picks. That leaves them at B tier. Then there's Riothusly. He did get some buffs with Escoffier and Freeze and Mavuika Melt setups, and you can also pair him with Amelie in burn teams. But outside of these, he doesn't have much to work with, and the teams he does fit into aren't anywhere near the top of the meta. For that reason, we'll also place him in B tier. Finally, we're left with Liney and Sijuin. Liney's mono pyro setup is heavily reliant on Kazuha and Xilonen, and in the current environment, it's borderline useless. Sijuin, on the other hand, has been basically useless since the very beginning. Both of them go straight down to D tier.
Coming to Natlan, we've now completed the first rerun cycle with Mualani and Chasca in the current banner, so it's time to evaluate their second rerun value as well.
Mualani is currently the second Hydro DPS overall, and even first in certain setups. She relies heavily on reactions like Vaporize, and she's super flexible. She's insane with Xilonen and Mavuika, but also works really well with Sucrose and Xiangling, which makes her a solid option for free-to-play players. But the question is she really worth pulling now? Honestly, she might be if you're a newer player and need a reliable DPS. Plus, she's only going to get better over time since Nod Krai seems designed to buff elemental reaction heavy units. With that in mind, Mualani is definitely an A-tier unit.
Next up is Kinich, the only male 5-star from Natlan so far, and currently the strongest dendro damage dealer. But the issue is his teams are locked into burning setups. That said, they're not hard to build. You can run him with Xiangling, Bennett, and Eon San, and he'll still pump out solid damage. He's top tier in his own comp, but when it comes to pure burning, Emily's a better option since she works off-field, which is a huge advantage.
Kinich, being on-field only, loses flexibility. With Nefer coming after 6.0 as a dendro DPS, Kinich drops down and sits at the top of B tier. Now, one of the most meta-defining units of the Natlan era, Xilonen. She is still one of the most valuable characters in the entire patch. Her versatility is unmatched, she heals, provides resistance shred, adds damage bonus, and synergizes with basically everyone thanks to her short field time. She is arguably as valuable as Furina, but the difference is that Xilonen's value will only keep increasing, especially because of her resistance shred. No doubt, she's staying in S tier. Chasca is an interesting case. While she doesn't deal impressive damage, she shines in exploration. She's one of the best exploration-focused units and feels built for fighting Natlan enemies specifically. But for long-term DPS value, she's not the unit you want to prioritize. She belongs in B tier. And I know some of you will disagree, so let me know in the comments. Then we have Mavuika, who is simply the strongest damage dealer of the Natlan cast. She's incredibly flexible, able to work as both a buffer and a sub DPS. I won't go into full detail here since most of you already know how strong she is, but there's no doubt she's sitting comfortably in S tier right behind Xilonen. Which brings us to Citlali. Honestly, one of my favorite units from Natlan. She provides something no one else does, a 40% team-wide damage bonus from her scroll, plus up to 15% pyro and hydro resistance shred, along with strong cryo application. On top of that, she even has an EM scaling shield for defense. She's insanely versatile, insanely strong, and without question an S tier unit. If you got her and plan to build different team comps, check out my full breakdown on the channel. Next is Varesa. She does require some investment, pairing with Eon-san or Xilonen to reach her full potential, but once she's set up, she's currently a top 3 DPS alongside Mavuika and Neuvillette. Her overload teams are absolutely broken, and her electrocharge setups got a huge buff with Ineffa. She is locked in as S tier. Speaking of broken, let's talk about Escoffier. She's basically the queen of freeze. Even with older DPS like Ayaka or Ruthlessly, Escoffier makes those teams insane. And because her freeze comps are so strong, you don't even need heavy investment. She herself carries the team. The only downside is that she's locked to freeze, but her power level is so absurd that she's still S tier, without question. Which brings us to Skirk. She does have insane damage potential, but the problem is the investment cost. She needs a lot of support to shine, and her free-to-play options just don't get close to what the current DPS units are doing. If you don't have Escoffier or Furina to pair her with, she simply doesn't live up to the hype. That's why Skirk falls into A tier. Finally, the most recent addition, Ineffa. She's the first character to fully interact with the Lunary action, and she also comes with a strong shield plus solid off-field DPS. She's definitely future-proof, and she will only get stronger as more lunar-related mechanics are introduced. But for now, she's not at that broken level yet, so Ineffa sits in A tier. Now, looking back at older units, most of them will only appear in the Chronicle rerun from now on,
Which makes sense because they're no longer the first choices for endgame content. There are exceptions though. Kazuha is still S tier, and of course the Archons, both Raiden and Zhongli, are still excellent in their roles. But compared to someone like Nahida, they're not the absolute best pulls anymore, and they rank a little lower. And that's my take on the Natlan reruns and how they stack up right now. Let me know in the comments if I missed any characters. I tried my best to cover most of them. And don't forget to join the giveaway. More details are in the description.